Hi and welcome to our inaugural cheese tasting with Hollie and Svetlana. Today we'd like to talk you through our selection of the February Cheese of the Month Club. And we have 4 cheeses to try and I hope you will enjoy our little tasting. Hi Hollie.
Hi Svetlana.
Are you excited?
I am, I'm ready to get stuck in.
This is just so much excitement for breakfast. We're doing this at 9 o'clock in the morning and we're literally salivating over these. So the first cheese that we're going to try today is called Maida Vale. Maida Vale is from England. It's a soft, kind of going on semi-firm, but mostly soft, especially when it's fully ripe. Cow's milk cheese. It's got a washed rind, so it's a little bit aromatic. And yes, I'm very excited to try it.
Yeah,
Have you tried it before, Hollie?
It's been a while since I've tried it actually, so I'm looking forward to trying it again. It's just that distinct yellowy colour you can see as soon as you look into it. It's tempting me.
It's gorgeous. So let's have a try. So if we press onto the cheese, it's got a little bit of a bounce, it's got a little bit of a cream line. Like Hollie says, it's quite golden in color. I believe they have Guernsey cow's milk.
Guernsey case. Yeah.
Guernsey, it's quite rich milk, so you can see that lovely golden color. On the outside, the rind is washed, and if we smell it,
Wow.
it's gonna have a little bit of pungency. It's not just super stinky cheese like a lot of washed rinds are, but yeah, it's washed rind, so it'll give it a different kind of aspect to the flavor when we're gonna eventually try it. I love this producer. They are artisan and they source their milk very locally, and they've been going since mid-80s. So now it's the second generation of the family working in the cheese room, and they're creating new cheeses to try, and Maida Vale is one of those new cheeses. Let's have a try.
Yeah. What do they wash it in? Sorry, I'm asking you right as you're taking a bite.
Great question. Local IPA.
IPA, okay.
Let's see if we can taste that. Generally, washing of the cheese is designed to give it this particular style of cheese rather than a flavor of the IPA per se. So it just makes the cheese kind of orange or pinkish on the rind and makes the cheese to be more smelly, but you are not necessarily going to detect any IPA flavors as such. Do you know what I mean? So for me, I see how the inside of the cheese is a little bit crumbly. Do you see that?
Yeah, slightly firmer on the interior, isn't it?
Yeah,
than at
we
the rind.
poke at it. And then under the rind, it's got this distinctive cream line. So for me, I would say this cheese is kind of semi-ripe,
Okay.
which is perfectly fine to enjoy now. But it will get more kind of evenly creamy throughout as the cheese would ripen. But yeah, I would enjoy this cheese at this age or even when it's riper. It's just kind of a different experience.
Yeah, it's lovely. It's so kind of buttery. There's a slight tang in there. Really delicious.
Yeah, I think you definitely get a lot of the tang when you're tasting the crumbly bit of the cheese. What do you think about the rind?
I really like it. I mean, it's quite a thin rind, but it adds a nice texture to the interior paste. It's quite tasty.
The nuttiness. I think for me,
Nuttiness, yeah.
if I had to encapsulate this cheese in 2 words, I would say buttery and nutty. Some people can be kind of a little bit put off by stinky cheeses. So I think it's like an introductory stinky cheese, if you will.
Yeah, it's not over the top
Yeah.
in terms of
It's not
stinkiness. No,
Gonna
it's not
hit
gonna.
you in the face.
It's not gonna stink out the fridge. No.
Yeah. Not at this age anyway. But that's the kind of thing you can ask your cheesemonger, because they have all that knowledge behind the counter. If you ask how ripe is this Maida Vale today, they can advise you and say, oh, this is really punchy, this is kind of on the mellower side, on the younger side. Yeah, great cheese. So what would we enjoy it with in terms of drinks?
Given it's washed in the IPA, would it work well to pair it with an IPA?
I like the way you think of it.
It seems like the obvious answer, but
I think
keep
it's
me
a
right.
nail on the head for sure. Definitely with IPA, for me, for those beer lovers out there. But if I was thinking about the wine, I'll probably say maybe like medium-bodied white. with a little bit of oakiness,
Mm-hmm.
because we do have those nutty notes there. Yeah. Or maybe like a lighter red, so I'm not ruling out the red here.
Yeah.
Nothing too heavy on the body when it comes to wine, because it would just
sense.
overwhelm the
That
cheese.
makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Lovely. Shall we move on to our second one?
Let's.
Yeah.
Yes. Noticeably, I've eaten my piece and you're get some.
I'm doing too much talking. I'll finish it later. Right, so the second cheese that we're gonna try today is Ossoiurati, and it's like one of those absolute classic cheeses from the Pyrenees, from France. If there was a top 10 French cheeses that everybody would have to try, it would be Ossoiurati, because it's just such a classic of the genre, and the genre being firm used milk cheeses.
Okay, so it's a used milk cheese.
Yes, it's a used milk cheese, and if we didn't know that it's a used milk cheese, we could easily tell by looking at the cheese. So if we pick up our piece and start looking at it, it's kind of got this ivory color. Would you say it's ivory?
Yeah, definitely. It's not as yellow as the others.
Yeah. And if I compare it to my Maida Vale, Maida definitely had a little bit of a golden hue, whereas here it's more towards the ivory.
Yeah.
So that's a good clue that it's a sheep's milk cheese. For me, yeah. Now, it's a firm cheese, so if we touch it, it's got a little bit of a
like
give, but it's not hard.
Yeah.
You can still kind of press into it. It's got little, what do we call them, fissures in the texture.
Yeah.
So it's not totally smooth. But yeah, I expect it to be quite smooth on the palate. With a little bit of a crumble. On the outside, we've got a natural rind,
Okay.
which gives it kind of a musty aroma. Smell that. And that's because, of course, the cheese spends so much time in the cellar, maturing. Whereas, if we smell the cheese, the body of the cheese, so much sweeter.
Yeah, I was going to say you get that distinct sweetness as soon as you, compared to the Maida Vale, it's...
Yeah. And the better way to smell it would be to break it under your nose. Oh, definitely kind of caramelly smell. Do you like condensed milk?
I love condensed milk.
I think that's what it reminds me of.
Yeah.
Absolutely gorgeous. So, used milk from the Pyrenees, firm. What else can we say about this? Yeah, very iconic cheese. There are a lot of cheeses from that region that will emulate Ossoiurati in some way, but many of the cheeses that come from the Pyrenees, they may have different names, will be very similar to Ossoiurati. So it's like this, the classic.
Yeah.
Shall we
So
try?
the rind you said was natural. Does that mean that it is edible, but it's perhaps just not as easy to digest?
Yeah, rinds are a little bit of a personal taste. I usually say don't eat anything that's not digestible, like cloth and wax. Put that away. On soft cheeses, generally rinds are edible. And on harder cheeses, rinds can be tried, and some people will enjoy them and others won't, because, like I say, it's just a lot of the taste of the cellar.
Yes.
So how much do you want to taste that cellariness, if you will, on the cheese? It's up to you.
Yeah,
But it's not
personal
going to kill you,
preference.
so that's the good news. Right, shall we try
Let's
it?
try it, please.
Very fudgy, I would say.
Yeah, it's got a nice bite to it, texture-wise.
I heard a really good word the other day, toothsome.
That's a new one on me.
I love this word, and I think that's exactly how I would describe Ossoiurati, toothsome. It's not only tasty, but there's something going on with the texture on your tooth, so to speak, on your palate. It's just like very, very soothing.
Satisfying bite into it, yeah.
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 It's one of those cheeses that's definitely a crowd pleaser.
Yeah, I really like it.
What do you think about the flavor?
It's not overpowering. I say it's there's that sweetness that we could detect when we were smelling it. That definitely comes through when you taste it as well. It's quite, I would say, mellow, gentle, but there's complexity there as well.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
And I think like when I got it on my palate after I smelled it, I also kind of discovered nutty, and I'm trying to think of a nut, maybe almondy notes, and perhaps even chocolatey. So it's that really satisfying sweetness.
Yeah, now that you mention it, it's coming through. I'm going to have to try it again.
It's suggestive tasting, isn't it? So in terms of pairing it with wine or other drinks, what do you think we could go?
Something medium bodied again. Not too overpowering, a little Merlot or something like that.
Yeah, I like you thinking about red wine. I don't know if I'm a little bit set in my ways, but when it comes to firm cheeses, firm sheep's milk cheeses, I think red wines are kind of a go-to to at least start finding the perfect pairing. So definitely a nice smooth Merlot from the Bordeaux area, whatever you like your Merlot from. So yeah, that's a good way to go. Yeah, not so much maybe white wine, unless it's maybe okay, but then even then, I think it would be nice with beer as well, like a nice Scottish ale.
Sounds good.
I'll
See it's laying in the morning.
Right, moving things along. Now we're gonna try our third cheese, and this is Doddington. Doddington is from Northumberland.
Okay.
Just
Not
across
too
the
far away.
border. Yeah, pretty much a local cheese to us. And what strikes me first here is the color contrast. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is ivory, this is golden. For me, that's a big clue that it's going to be a cow's milk. So if I didn't know, definitely cow's milk. Texture-wise,
Quite firm. It's firmer definitely than also.
a little bit less give.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if we look at the texture, again, there's like a little breakages going on visually, but also there's a lot of smoothness between the fissures. So tiny little protein
I was
crystals.
going to say, am I spotting some crystals in there? Yeah.
So crystals obviously are a sign of maturity, and we can tell just with the texture of this cheese, with how it looks, that it's going to be quite a mature cheese. On the rind, we do have quite a pronounced russet kind of color, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think there is a little bit of coating going on. So when it comes to rinds that have a little bit of coating, perhaps cut them off. So there might be a little bit of wax. I don't know exactly. But yeah, that's when it comes to the rind. Shall we smell?
Oh wow. Sweetness, nuttiness, caramelly.
Definitely. I'll let you speak. I like this.
I'm excited for this one. This smells amazing.
Definitely, but it's like a different type of sweetness. There's almost a little bit like of sharpness as well in the smell, which is not the same sweetness to osso. So I expect it. It almost reminds me of cheddar, and this is where we know that this cheese is a blend of two styles. It's a blend of cheddar and Gouda, and this is what I'm picking up in the nose.
That makes more sense.
Yeah.
How unusual to be a blend of the two.
Yeah. Let's see how it tastes. Well, first of all, super complex.
100%.
It just kind of envelops your whole mouth with flavor.
My mind is confused. Is it cheddar? Is it Gouda? There's almost like a parmesan-ness to it as well.
Yeah. I think texture-wise, and yeah, you're definitely very close with parmesan. But there's also that sharpness of a cheddar.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It's quite distinct.
And it's almost more fruity sweetness rather than caramelly and nutty here. So yeah, I think that is a classic cheese that people could enjoy instead of a cheddar with like chutneys and beer and another kind of red wine situation. Yeah, I think it's for people who really enjoy strong flavors that kind of play across your palate.
Yeah, it's got really good length to it as well. I'm still
tasting it.
Still tasting it. Yeah, it's really
I
good.
think you need one of those wafers to cleanse the palate. So fantastic. And shall we do our last cheese?
Yes, let's.
So now for our last cheese, we have a classic Roquefort. And some people might say, oh, Roquefort, I've been there, done that, you know, and I always feel a little bit sad when that happens in the shop. and I kind of try to gently turn them around and say, well, have you tried this particular Roquefort?
Yeah.
This particular Roquefort is a revelation. So just to give everybody a little bit of a background, there are 7 major, or just 7 in total, producers of Roquefort out there, and 2 of them are humongous. They are super big, they sell into supermarkets, and they have at least over 50% of the market with the entire production of Roquefort. The other 5 producers are much smaller, so, and the one that we stock here at the Cheese Lady is the smallest producer. So the last time I checked, they had about 10 people working there. They're very much a family-run enterprise. So they do things just so without cutting any corners. Not only you won't find this Roquefort in supermarkets, when we sell it here at the shop, it's always cut from the wheel, which I think makes a huge difference, because vacuum packing really, really affects the flavor, the texture of the cheese. So if you want to have a proper Roquefort experience, go first of all to a cheese shop, get it cut from the wheel, but also if you want to try my favorite Roquefort, it is the Roquefort Vieux Berger.
Yeah. So have you tried the different Roqueforts from all the 7 different producers?
I haven't tried all 7, I'll be honest, because they're a little bit harder to find. I think I would have to go to France and like really make it my mission to find all 7. Obviously I would have tried the Société and the Papillon back in the day when I was just starting in cheese and cheese was coming from supermarket for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, those are the ones that everybody is familiar with. But yeah, I've tried Carl, and that was lovely. It was super, super intense. I mean, Roquefort is going to be a strong blue.
Yeah.
So there's no 2 ways about it. It's definitely on the stronger end of the spectrum. But yeah, it's a great idea to go out there looking for all the different Roqueforts. Great idea. Shall we try this one?
Yes, please, let's. King of Blues, I think this is known as, isn't it?
Absolutely. It was the first French cheese overall to be granted AOC, so the name protection, in 1925. Oh, we're coming up for 100 years actually next year.
Oh, wow, it's a good reason to go to Roquefort then.
Absolutely. So let's look at the cheese. Color-wise, we can see it's kind of closer to our Osseirati. So it has that kind of whiteness, kind of ivoryness to it. Yeah, definitely no golden hue there. Now, as for the distribution of the blue, there's a tiny bit more in the center, but I would say it's quite a good spread of the blue, if you will.
Yeah.
So I would expect it to be a strong cheese if I didn't know what it is. Now, let's smell it.
Strong.
Definitely mushroomy for me. Yeah, that prevailing mushroomy, slightly kind of celery aroma. Very pleasant. I'd like to taste it.
It looks like it's going to be creamy. I can tell straight away. Lovely creamy texture.
It's got, again, that toothsomeness, but it's much creamier. It's almost velvety on the palate. I wish we warmed our cheeses a little bit more to room temperature. Let's be honest, we didn't cut them far enough in advance. But yes, at room temperature, I think the texture would be even more velvety. And that strength is definitely not so. I mean, there's upfront saltiness as well.
Yeah.
With blue cheeses, I think if you just enjoy them on their own, that's great. Some people might find the saltiness or the bite of it a bit too much. So in those cases, I would say pair it with a sweeter wine.
That help balance out a little.
Totally. You know, the classic combination, Sauterne and Roquefort. That is just a match made in heaven. What would you think?
I do love it. I do love it. Is there not an interesting story about the origins of this cheese as well? I'm sure I read something about a boy in a cave. What's the story? Remind me.
So apparently there was a young shepherd, and he was about to have his lunch, which was some rye bread and some fresh cheese. and then he saw a girl somewhere in the distance, and he decided to pursue her and left his lunch in the cave. And when he came back days later, so maybe they did have a nice chat, at least, he found that his cheese was covered by blue mold. He was a little bit hungry, so he still decided to enjoy the cheese, and that's, as story goes, the blue cheese was discovered. But yeah, actually, now that you remind me, it is still to this day that all Roquefort, so from all 7 producers, have to be matured in Combalou caves, and that's part of their protection, the thing that's protected by law. Because those caves are quite unique. They're completely natural. They were created by volcanic kind of movements and eruption many millennia ago, and they have natural openings in them which help with the air circulation, and they keep the temperature kind of even throughout the year, and humidity just so it's that special ambiance that also plays into the character of this cheese.
That makes sense.
What was your favorite?
I have to say Roquefort is always going to be a standout winner for me. I enjoyed all of them, but my go-to would always be the Roquefort. What about you?
I do like Roquefort. I mean, love Roquefort. I would have to say Osserate out of all of these, if I had to choose. But I mean, I hope I never have to choose. I could definitely enjoy this entire cheese board, and the reason why we created it is because they kind of work together, don't they?
Yeah.
So you have a little bit of a softness in the first cheese, 2 firm cheeses, and then another creamy one. So they definitely work together. There you have it. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope you enjoyed our little chat, and we hope you can join us another time. Until then, bye.
Bye.